Hello everybody, I am in such a good mood today because I'm back out in the wilderness because I've 95% recovered from my man flu. You might not be able to tell, I'm still a bit bunged up, but I feel great. I say wilderness, it's not really the wilderness because, well, there's a car park and a cafe about 50 yards that way. But you can't see it, so it doesn't matter, just forget that. Also, I'm going to go out on a limb and say that this is the last time, or the last day, this winter, that I have to wear this hat. Feels a bit like spring today. It's not the last video this hat will appear in because I didn't actually come out today to film this particular video. I came out to film another one, which will probably be the next video, all about filters. But the reason I'm filming this video is because, well, it's a bit of a long story actually. Basically, a couple of weeks ago I tried to film this video and then I watched it back and I was just bored. I didn't think it was going to help enough people. I didn't think it was interesting enough, so I just didn't post it. Then I got a few more emails relating to that topic that made me think that, oh, maybe people do want it. And so I tried it again this week. I even got some rubbish B-roll from inside my flat of the snow, and I went outside in the snow to get a thumbnail, and I watched that back, and I nearly fell asleep again. So it wasn't until about 15 minutes ago when I got here, parked the car, checked my emails to see two more emails about this topic that I thought, right, I'm just gonna have to film it. So yeah, this is the third time I filmed what is probably a bit of a tedious video. But here goes. So since I've been making videos, I've been getting more and more questions from beginners about what kind of camera they should buy. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think it's perfectly sensible if you're a beginner to seek advice on what kind of camera you should get. What has struck me though is that the vast majority of the time, not the majority of the time, a lot of the time, those emails or those comments will include comparisons that people can't decide between. So they'll be talking about things like the D850 or the A7R Mark III or the 5D Mark IV, or insert any other camera worth thousands of dollars here. And again, that's fine, there's nothing particularly wrong with it. Regardless of where you are on your photography journey, you can spend whatever you want on a camera. It's none of my business. But where I think I should maybe be offering a bit of advice is that a lot of the time, as far as I can tell from these emails and comments, people don't necessarily have the money for them. They're talking about saving up for months, or they're talking about expensive finance options. And at that point, I kind of just have to jump in and be like, whoa, 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 whoa. The biggest mistake I think that beginners make when they start out in photography, and it's, you know, I did it, I know lots of other now well-established photographers that did it, is overemphasizing or placing way too much importance on a camera in the process of getting a good photo. Obviously for a photo you need a camera, but it seems to me that beginners think that a camera is pretty much all you need, and that's not the case. And you know, if a good camera was all it took to get amazing photos, then the standard of photography would go up every year because the standard of cameras is going up every year. And it's completely subjective, but if you look at any of the photo awards, you know, the Sony awards or any photography awards that come out every year, whether they're wildlife or any other kind of genre, to me the standard doesn't really look like it's improving at all. And that's, to me at least, just one indicator that cameras, they're not the thing that makes great photos. And my concern when it comes to beginners is that they spend all of this money, pretty much all of their money, on cameras. There's a sheep making a beeline towards me. Yeah, you stop there. What? Yeah, my concern is that beginners spend all this money on these cameras and then they get home and they've got no money left and they sit in their living rooms and they're looking at the ceiling and the furniture, wondering how they can take interesting photos of those things because, well, they've got no money to invest in anything else that it takes to make good photos. And you know, there's obvious stuff like lenses and tripods and bags and accessories, but also things like location and transport. Quite often, unless you're super lucky, regardless of the kind of images you want to get, they're not always going to be available to get on your doorstep. Quite often you'll have to travel, or you have to location scout. Sometimes you'll need models or props. And aside from that, you need to learn how to get the images as well. You need to learn what it takes to get those images, what techniques you need. You might need to go on courses, you might need to invest time and money into online courses, or even if you're just watching YouTube, that takes time, and that's time that you're not spending earning money elsewhere. So whichever way you slice it, more often than not, good photos, great photos, take investments outside of cameras. And I see too many beginners that don't realise that and place far too much importance on cameras, and they spend too much money on cameras, which limits the good photos that they can take, ironically. So yeah, that's basically what this video is about. My suggestion for how to change it is, yes, by all means have a camera budget, but make sure that that camera budget sits within a photography budget. And it doesn't really matter if that photography budget is over 2 years or 3 years or 5 years, but make sure that you can spend money on things like location scouting, lighting, lenses, learning, because otherwise you'll have this really super expensive piece of kit and you won't be taking great photos with it, and you'll wonder why. And it's because you've not invested in the other areas that require investment. So yeah, make sure you've got money left to spend on other things, and you should be fine. I mean, think of it this way. If you spend like $1 on a camera and then you spend $500 on a camera, the difference between those cameras is going to be huge. And then if you take the $500 camera and you compare it to another camera that was $1,000, the difference might not be that big. The difference certainly won't be as big as the difference in the $500 between the first two. And then if you take your $1,000 camera and compare it to a $3,000 camera, that $2,000 worth of difference is probably still not going to be as big as the initial difference between the first 500. I don't know if I'm keeping track, but basically it's called the point of diminishing returns. It exists in pretty much anything you buy, and I would suggest that if you spend $1,000 on a camera and $2,000 on things like location scouting or visiting different places or lenses or tripods, whatever it might be, other accessories to help you get the photos you want, that is a much better investment of that money than a camera. I know this sounds so obvious probably to most of you. This is not rocket science, but I get a lot of emails with people basically looking to spend their entire life savings on a camera, and so I thought this was worth talking about. Two other things to say quickly. I noticed in that last take that my hoodie strings weren't of equal length, which I know has annoyed some of you in the past. Sorry. And the second thing is that quite often when beginners have got a comparison between 2 or 3 different cameras and they don't know which to choose, I'll just say to them, well, which do you prefer the feel of? And they'll say, oh, I don't know, I've not tried any of them in person. Like, the internet is awesome for a lot of stuff. If you're buying a t-shirt, for example, the worst that's going to happen if you've not tried it on first is it doesn't fit very well. Like, you've lost 10 or 15 quid, whatever it might be, if you can't send it back. If you're buying a camera, if you're spending a good amount of money on a camera, go and try it out. Like, cameras are meant to be held. The button placement is important, the menus are important, how it feels in your hands is important. And that's going to play a big part, or should play a big part, in which you decide to invest lots of money into normally. So yeah, go and try a camera in person and don't just make your judgments from specs. Because if you do that, there's a good chance you won't buy the right camera for you. Right, I'm going to go and crack on with this other video now. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in a few days, hopefully, when I've filmed that. Cheers! And the award for the sorriest lump of snow I've ever seen goes to... oh no, there's another one! And the award for the sorriest lump of snow I've ever seen actually goes to...